How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the channel. How's it going? Anyways, hope you had a great weekend, and let's get into this one. So I was browsing around on the internet, checking some business news, and I read this one article that really seemed to catch my eye. It was how the stock market has a perfect record when this happens. It's like a perfect trend line. And I thought that was kind of interesting because you don't normally hear perfect and like long lasting in the stock market. So this was an interesting read. So I thought I'd share it with you because it depends on the future of the market and how 2019 will be as a whole. So according to this, it should be a pretty good year. But what exactly is the factor and what are they going off of? Well, let me read this article and then we'll talk a little bit about it. All right. So this article comes courtesy of CNBC. And it says, after comeback, the stock market is aligned with a historical pattern with perfect track record. I feel like there really should be an A there. So key points. Stocks have risen a year after 18 midterm elections since World War II, with the S&P 500 delivering an average return of 14.5% according to LPL Financial Research, with the S&P up only 1.3% since the midterm election last November. There indeed could still be room for stocks to run in 2019, LPL says in a note. Stocks hit a new high for this year this week, back on track to match a post-election pattern that has stood the test of time. The stock market has risen in the year after all 18 midterm elections since World War II, with the S&P 500 delivering an average return of 14.5%, according to LPL Financial Research. The pattern is pointing to a longer bull run even after this year's epic rebound. So as you can see here, this says stocks have done well after midterm elections, and there is a chart. The chart has the date of the midterm elections, the president, the Senate, the House, the Congress makeup, and the S&P 500 index return 1 year later. So it starts with Harry Truman and goes all the way down to the current president with Donald J. Trump. Okay, so as you can see here, there's a pretty good mix of Democrats and Republicans who've won. There's even a couple splits happening with Ronald Reagan in '82, Barack Obama in 2010, and Donald Trump in 2018. In general, there's really no negative returns, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. There has been 0 negative returns, right? Every single return is positive, which is pretty crazy because this goes back to 1946. So this chart spans 72 years, which is pretty crazy. So this one might be legit. Who knows? Obviously, there's a question mark there because we don't know what's going to happen. So let's look. It says average 14.5, median 13.9, count 18%, higher 18. So obviously, perfect record. So let's continue on. With the S&P 500 up only 1.3% since the midterm election last November, there indeed could still be room for stocks to run in 2019, LPL's Ryan Detrick said in a note on Wednesday. After this week's rally, the stock market has bounced back from December's steep sell-off, with the S&P 500 up more than 12% year to date. And there are a couple catalysts that could send stocks even higher, including a China trade deal that could take the uncertainty out of the market and a helping hand from the Federal Reserve that already signaled a more patient approach to rate hikes, and it is prepared to adjust balance sheet unwind if needed. President Donald Trump, glued to the stock market's fluctuations, is a big champion of this market's pattern as he views a booming market as his way to re-election. CNBC reported last week Trump is pushing hard to strike a trade deal with China in the hope of lifting the stock market ahead of his re-election bid. The third year leading up to an election tends to be a very good one for the market because the president is trying to have the economy and the party in power looking good for getting reelected. Andrew Slimon, senior portfolio manager at Morgan Stanley Investment Management, said on CNBC's Power Lunch, "The year prior to a presidential election has almost always been a good one. In the last 19 such years, the market is up on average 15%, and 18 out of 19 times it's been positive." The pattern can also be explained by the gridlock situation often seen after an election. where lawmakers and the president are unlikely to do harm or remove any bullish policy that is already in place. So that's pretty much the article. Pretty interesting in my opinion. That was a different kind of article because it normally doesn't talk about that, and obviously this is the year after the midterm elections. They make a few points in this article, and one point I find really striking is that they make a pretty good point that most presidents don't normally want to, cause any trouble in a way. They kind of want to be on their best behavior, and a good way to be on your best behavior is to make sure the economy is, growing, thriving, and striving, to say the least, right? That makes most people happy. Most people have jobs and are making money and, can afford to go out and spend some extra discretionary money, then the economy tends to, go up, and it tends to, in a way, inflate itself and not depreciate or anything like that. So it helps the total economy and the GDP growth and everything like that, and everything's fine and dandy. So I'm pretty sure Trump will try his hardest just to make things go up. It looks better on him as a president, and it's something he can say in his re-election speeches, right? So when he's giving a speech up on the podium, he doesn't want to say, the last full year I was president, the stock market went down. No, he wants to say, in my last full year of presidency, the stock market went up, 20% or something crazy like that. That would be a huge number, right? I mean, the stock market, the S&P on average returns about 10% per year. It's about 9.8% per year since the Great Depression, okay? Really long time. So if he could go over 10%, at least finish positive, but over 10%, that would be fantastic. He's going to talk about that from here to the moon and back. Why wouldn't you? That's a great selling point, and after all, the main part of being elected as president is selling yourself. That's what you have to do. You have to sell yourself to all of America that you are the best fit for the job, and that with you in charge, the people will do well. They will continue to make money, their jobs will be good, and, let's go America type thing, right? So a good way to do that is to make sure the stock market's doing well. That's a good gauge of the economy. Okay, so if people feel confident in you to lead the country, and if they look back the past 4 years and you've done really well, and your last full year of presidency did great, well, chances are the next few years will be great too, right? That's what people think, and that could happen. So another thing is the stock market was up 12% per date, they said, but the stock market was only up just over 1% since the midterm election. Obviously, there was a huge sell-off in December and stuff like that, so we're kind of been clawing back ever since. If Trump could get the trade deal done with China, because that's kind of the big uncertainty at the moment right now, I think the stock market would go much higher. It would alleviate a lot of stress, and I think people would be pretty happy with that. So I think that personally the stock market can go higher. It's up 12% this year, which sounds like a lot, but obviously there was a huge sell-off last year. So when you take it into perspective, this is how you can get big gains, is when you come off of big losses. It sounds counterintuitive, but it makes sense when you think about it. If you lose a lot, well then you gain that back, well then it looks like you're up a huge percent when really you kind of went nowhere, right? So that's kind of my thinking there. I'm thinking there's going to be a trade deal. I've said this before in my other videos, like the NAFTA deal. I said there was going to be a trade deal between the US and Canada and Mexico, and it was going to be called something like NAFTA 2.0, or, not NAFTA 2.0, but some other trade deal with a different name. And guess what? It happened. Big surprise, right? At the end of the day, when you got huge countries like America, Canada's up there, but I'm Canadian and we only got like 35 million people living here. Our GDP is nowhere near America's, and I'm not going to say it is. So obviously, America's a juggernaut. We share a border, Canada and America, same with Mexico, with the United States. They want everything to run pretty smoothly. Believe me, if America's making money, Canada's going to make money, and Mexico's going to make money, everything's going to be fine and dandy. And you know what? Yes, China and America have some issues, okay? No relationship is 100% perfect, okay? if you're watching this, your relationship with whoever is not perfect. There are some issues in every single relationship, but if you really want things to work, things are going to work out, pretty much guaranteed. So America and China, I pretty much can guarantee, are going to have a trade agreement, some way, some form, sooner or later, before the 2020 mark, okay? So before January 1st, 2020 rolls around, believe me, there will be a deal, okay? Because that's another huge selling point for Trump. Trump's gonna get up on that podium, he's gonna say, I got a trade deal with this. I got the stock market to go up. It's up this much since I got elected. It's up this much in the past year. And I tell you, the stock market could go up huge if this happens. I'm talking like easily 20%, right? And that's no small number. That's a big number. So it could go up maybe 10% since elections, but over 20% this year. And he's going to run with both of those numbers. Why wouldn't you? They look great, right? You see this nice big gain, and we're talking about huge companies gaining here, not like $5-10 and you gain $1. No, we're talking like billions of dollars, trillions of dollars, really. So he's going to use that. So this is an interesting article, and if this article is any gauge, that means we're definitely going to have a positive year if this article is correct. And honestly, I tend to lean on the bullish side. I always normally lean on the bullish side unless I see something really scary, and I haven't ever really seen anything that scary yet. I think companies are still doing well, the economy is still strong, so I don't see any reason this bull run should stop. Just because we've been living in the longest bull run for a few months now doesn't mean it has to stop. I don't believe that, like, oh, you broke the record so it's going to end next week, because it doesn't normally go on this long. No, every single time it is different, okay? And every single time there's a crash, there's not been a crash because of that exact same reason again, okay? There hasn't, all right? You look at the last crash, it was a housing bubble. That never happened before, okay? Chances of it happening again, really slim, and pretty much, I don't want to say it's impossible, but very unlikely, just because a lot of those mistakes were fixed because no one knew to look for those mistakes, okay? It was never brought to anyone's attention. Now it is brought to people's attention, so now it's a big factor, so people look into it. Obviously, history has a tendency of repeating itself, so maybe in 100 years this could happen again. That's pretty much it. Chances are, with this, the market's going to be A-okay. Maybe it's time to invest. I wouldn't be running to throw my money in any stock. I'll always pick a good company. But you don't have to pull out your money. If you are in a good company, you don't have to pull out your money. And hey, at the end of the day, if it goes down, buy more, right? That's what it's for. The problem is being disciplined. But if you want to try and be disciplined, the best thing you should do is like this video and subscribe to this channel, because I'm going to help you get through any stock market things, any news, any problems, anything like that. I will always talk about it to you beautiful people, and we can debate it here. So leave a comment down below if you thought this video was interesting, what you think about this article. Do you think we're going to have a positive year? Do you think we're going to have a negative year? What do you think? Do you think that maybe this thing can be totally wrong and break trend and go way down and screw up this whole report? Or does it seem pretty legit? Anyways, until next time, have an absolutely fantastic, amazing, wonderful, one-of-a-kind, absolutely gorgeous day. And until next time, goodbye.